Good evening. We'll call the October 10th Select Board meeting to order. And if you would please rise and join me in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Abbott.
Here.
Fuller.
Here.
Haines.
Here.
Bender.
Here. The Danby Select Board and Planning Commission meetings are open to the public in person and remotely, but are not public meetings per se. Public attendees, both in person and remote participants, who wish to comment on agenda items will be given an opportunity at the beginning of each meeting to do so. As in the past, written communications may also be sent to the boards for consideration. Business is conducted and votes are cast only by board members. The chat feature is only to be used by remote participants to alert the host to technical difficulties and is not for private conversations. To maintain order, as well as the efficiency of the meeting, the rules for public participation are: remote attendees will be muted by the online host upon joining the meeting, remaining so unless recognized to speak. Participants should arrive on time and state their name for the record. Those who desire to speak in order to comment or question should use the hand-raising function and will be recognized in the order in which the hands were raised. Remote participants, when recognized, will unmute and clearly identify themselves by first and last name and the area of town in which they reside. Comments and questions are limited to 2 to 3 minutes. Anyone who desires to speak longer than that should arrange beforehand to be placed on the agenda. General ground rules are that speakers will not be interrupted. There will be no crosstalk between members of the audience. The speaker will treat the proceedings and other speakers with dignity and respect, addressing the issue and not personalities. I'll entertain a motion to set the agenda.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, any additions or deletions? All those in favor of setting the agenda as printed, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I'll entertain a motion to adopt the minutes of the Select Board meeting of September 12th, 2024.
I'll make the motion.
Motion is
Second.
made and seconded. Any corrections to the minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I'll entertain a motion to enter.
Did you do public comment and I didn't hear it?
No.
Oh, yeah, we skipped over public comment.
I'm very sorry. I apologize. Public comment. Do we have anybody at home?
Annette Smith.
Participating or wishing to
No,
comment?
she's got her hand raised.
Okay, please recognize me.
Annette, you should be good to speak.
This is Annette Smith. I live in the northern end of town. I'd like to speak to you about what happened at the last meeting. You set the agenda. You then allowed for public comment during which we're to speak about agenda items. At the end of the meeting, and I don't remember if it was new business or old business, you brought up ARPA money and you took action on it to decide to spend ARPA money, but that was never put on the agenda. And I think I've sent you in the past the guidance from the Secretary of State's office that action items should be warned, and even if you bring up things in old business, that the action should be postponed until the next meeting. So and this, I don't think this is the first time it's happened, that you are making decisions, spending money at the very end of the meeting on things that weren't warned. And so I'd like to ask you to please be aware that there was no opportunity to weigh in at the end, and it was not on the agenda. It is unclear to me exactly what you decided. I think that you are spending $25,000 on the tower for the fire department. But then, as I read in the minutes, there was some sort of reference to spending money on a truck. And I'm not sure what that is, and I don't know. I mean, I understand there was $180,000 left. If $25,000 is going to the towards the tower for the fire department, then how much ARPA money is left? How much is going for the truck? And I would like to recommend that about $1,000 or $2,000 of the ARPA money, which I think you have to spend by the end of the year, be spent on what's called an OWL. It is a device that is used for these hybrid meetings. I think Tinmouth has one. They're a pretty standard device that enables the audience to be seen as well as the board. And I believe it's an investment, given that the Planning Commission and Select Board are now holding hybrid meetings, which I greatly appreciate, that I think that it would be a worthwhile investment for the town, and one that is definitely falls under the standards for ARPA money. I also have a question about, I want to comment on the road work that's been done. I'm not sure if this should go to Steve or to Tom, but I really appreciate the quality of the work that has been done on Baker Brook Road. And I just wanted to know, is there a plan to remove that very large tree that was taken out and is lying in what is essentially a ditch? I think it should be removed before snow plowing, and probably good firewood for somebody who needs firewood. But I'd like to know if that if that pile of tree is going to be removed. So thank you.
A lot of questions there. Did you want to answer there?
We'll start with the tree.
Okay. You left the tree, did you? Or
Yeah, I left a tree. And if anybody wants to burn that popple tree, they're more than welcome to go cut it up, because I don't want it for firewood. We are going to get rid of it when we get back to working on Baker Brook. But currently we're concentrating on our fall grading and trying to get our winter sand put up.
I do have another public comment, but you can
Okay, well,
finish.
let's finish with this first. Would you like to address the comment, or the question about the truck funds?
Well, the ARPA money, I'm confused on what she said the amount was compared to what you had showed us. So I can't really address the, but as far as the answer on, the truck was already an expenditure that had been voted on actually a year ago.
Over a year
Yeah, it was
ago.
over a year ago. And we just kind of moved money around as to what pot to take the money out of. So the expenditure was talked at a meeting and was voted on. So
And-
that wasn't a new expenditure. We just took ARPA money and used it as opposed to our equipment money. So we were just moving funds from one pocket to the other.
And the motion, as I recall, was to move the balance of the ARPA money into the fund to cover the truck, thereby spending all of the ARPA money, which we knew we had to spend by the end of the year. And we have another hand up.
Yes, Beth Thompson. Beth, I believe you're good to speak.
Hi, it's Beth. Well, I believe Annette also raised the fact that the discussion of the spending of the ARPA money was not on the agenda at all. It wasn't warned. Could you address that? And then I have another question of procedure.
It was, when we set the agenda, it was on there.
But was the agenda set after the public comment period?
No.
Okay, so I'm just a little confused about the procedure for that. Because these things kind of show up at the setting of the agenda at the beginning of the meeting without people knowing about it in the advance of the meeting. But
Well,
that's actually not my, go ahead.
We set the agenda at the beginning of the meeting, and I ask if there are additions or deletions. And what we added at that point was the ARPA money, and I believe, I don't have last month's agenda in front of me, but I believe that we put it under old business, and that's where we acted on it.
Okay, so I've been wondering for a long time why old business isn't known to be old business before you get to the meeting. Why isn't that on there when you print the agenda before we all gather?
Well, the agenda is done about 5 days before the meeting, and that way we can meet the timeline requirements to have it on the website and so forth. And things happen in those 5 days. Very often we get fleet permits that come in, to name one, and we address them. I mean, I can't come up with an agenda 5 minutes before the meeting and meet the legal posting requirements for it.
Okay. I have two other procedural questions. One is, I believe when I read the minutes, it talked about the vote on, the board was voting on whether to amend the town plan. And it says in the minutes that the town attorney was consulted, and it turned out that there weren't enough board members voting to get the right number of votes for that to have actually been approved. But my recollection is that the town attorney was not at that meeting and must have been consulted after the meeting. So should that really appear in the minutes as having happened during the meeting when it happened after the meeting?
When the vote took place, the recording will bear me out that I said I am not saying whether or not the motion passed until I consult the town attorney, because I wanted to be very clear on that, given the...
Okay, because I think that in terms of audio, that statement was not all that clear. But I'm glad to hear you tell me that now. So thanks for that. And I have one further procedural question, and that is, when you have your executive session to review applications to fill the vacant board position, can you just let us know a little bit about what your procedure is, whether you are reading those letters for the first time in executive session? Do you then try to come to consensus, or do you vote? I mean, how do you actually evaluate those?
The letters were forwarded to all of the select board members as they came in, and a copy was given to the town clerk for filing. And when we go into executive session, we will review the letters and discuss them.
And then do you take a vote, Brad, or do you, do you try to get everybody to agree, or?
Well, we take a vote.
Okay.
I'm not going to say that we try and get everybody to agree.
Okay. All right, thank you. That's the extent of my questions.
Okay?
Annette is raising her hand again.
Yes.
Annette, you're good to speak.
Thank you. I pulled up the minutes for the last meeting. Motion to set agenda. Add winter sand proposals. Presentation from Hillary Solomon. Motion by Haines, seconded by Fuller. The ARPA money was not added to the agenda. You then took action to spend over $100,000 of ARPA money without it being warned at the end of the meeting. I'm asking you to please warn items and give the public the opportunity to weigh in prior to taking action, especially when it involves spending money. And that was a lot of money that you spent, and it was very unclear what, I stayed till the end of the meeting. I listened. I couldn't follow what you were doing. I didn't know it was some truck that was approved by the voters. I don't, it's just, it's especially because we can't speak now during the meeting on anything that's on the agenda. We have to do it right now. And if you don't put it on the agenda, you are violating our right to have a say. So I really would like to ask you to be very aware when you do add these items to the agenda that and if you don't add them, please don't take action on them. Thank you.
So noted, and I will try my very best to do that in the future. Michelle?
I'm speaking as a taxpayer. The tower, the communications tower, is huge. Yes, it's $25,000. However, you may not know that there have been times the fire department has had to run to a house, knock on a door, because there's no service, there's no radio, there's no nothing over there. So, I know it sounds like a lot of money, but it's safety. It's a safety issue, and I just want to support the idea that they paid for that with that, because it protects all of us. And it also makes their radios work right, and other
Manchester Rescue Squad is also tied into that
it's huge.
radio tower.
We've had a huge gap up there, and it's a big problem. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you.
Is it up and running at this point in time?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Okay. Were you just talking about that, Steve? That you were trying to talk to someone else that was working in the town and...
Larry and I were talking on our new radios, because we also purchased radios for the trucks with ARPA funding, that we have expanded our ability to truck. We've expanded our ability to talk truck to truck. We haven't been far enough away from each other yet to where we've needed to try the repeater, but that's also on the fire department's channel, so we don't want to be on that often, just because we don't want to add confusion.
Okay. Good to know. Thank you.
Tracy?
I just wanted to say that Annette was right. You did not ever mention ARPA when you were setting the agenda. The only thing you mentioned was the Conservation Resources District presentation. There was no mention of ARPA.
But the ARPA money has been an ongoing discussion.
Correct.
Yes, but it was not warned, or you didn't add it to the agenda at the beginning, so nobody knew about it.
Well, I apologize for that. It was not intentional.
Annette's raising her hand.
Yes.
Annette?
I have a question that I would like to know, since it's just one item on the agenda, what is the relocation of the compactors about? Is there a specific location you're going to be talking about?
Was that transfer station?
Yeah.
Did you say? Yes. There's a consideration of working with the town of Mount Tabor and relocating the transfer station to their site.
Okay, so that's what you'll be discussing.
Correct. Do you have input on that?
I think it's a good idea. I'm glad to hear you're talking about it. I don't know any more details than that, but I know that it was explored many years ago, and I'm glad to see that there's some progress being made.
Right. And we don't really have details at this point. The statement there is basically going to be that we have agreed to enter into discussion with them. Any other public comment?
I
Okay, so we'll close the public section. And now I will entertain a motion to enter into executive session to review the letters of interest for the Select Board
I'll make the
vacancy.
motion.
I'll second it.
Motion is made and seconded. Please note that we are going into executive session at 7:22. Okay, we'll call the meeting back to order at 7:50. And I would like to thank the 7 people that came forth putting in letters of interest. And that would be Janice Arnold, Sarah Wild, Ingrid Halligan, William Payne, Annette Smith, Byron Batiste, and Greg Heaton. Thank you all very much for your
Thank you.
interest in serving the town. We really appreciate it, and in all the years I've been coming to Select Board meetings, and there's been a few times along the way where we've had to make appointments, I have never seen so many people show interest, so that's a very positive thing. And now I will entertain a motion to appoint someone to fill the vacancy created by Michael Powers' resignation.
I'll make the motion, we appoint Greg Heaton.
Is there a second?
I will second that.
Motion is made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Greg, would you come up here, please? So, do you solemnly swear that you will be true and faithful to the state of Vermont, and that you will not directly or indirectly do anything to act in any way that is injurious to the Constitution of the government thereof, so help you God? Okay. So, we need to get a chair there for him.
We want him prepared for the meeting?
And we need your name here and your signature right there. Okay, next we have a application to approve for Rootland Cannabis. The Cannabis Control Board has received an application for licensure for a mixed cultivator Tier 1 small cultivator renewal that falls within the jurisdiction of our local government.
Does it tell you what a mixed cultivator Tier 1
This is outdoor.
Okay, so it's outdoor, and what does small mean?
I don't have the definition of small.
And we started a cannabis control board, but were we ever able to actually set any rules? Like how close to neighbors' properties, houses, things like that?
No, and I attended a Zoom meeting 2 days ago that the Cannabis Control Board sponsored, and all of the towns are grappling with the same issue, and that is you get something from these people up in Montpelier, and it tells you that they approve things. They want to know, do you comply with required inspections? Is your proposed cannabis establishment project in a public building? The answer to that is no. Is the physical site of the operation on a municipal water supply? And the answer to that is no. And the first question about inspections, they answered yes. So they have apparently inspected the property and felt that it meets their guidelines.
But is there, and I'm asking, I'm just for
Yeah, and I'm
conversation,
not the
because I'm
expert,
not,
so-
but I'm trying to bring in the conversation. Any rules for distance from, like if they were growing it right next to your house, and I mean, obviously we can drive down the road and I can tell you wherever it's growing, for quite a ways away.
My understanding is the rules were set by the Cannabis Control Board, and with like Danby doesn't have zoning and things, our ability to, you cannot pass anything that infringes upon what the state has already set.
Yeah, and this is the feeling I came away with from the Zoom conference the other day, that the towns are just rubber stamping what the state says. You know, I guess if there was some kind of major concern that we felt maybe if the property was next to a school or something, we could object and they would take that into consideration, but they probably already do that in the research.
Well, it just concerns me because I don't think the state did a lot of research on any of this, and that they're just pushing this stuff out, and it's obviously been a...
They are a very difficult board to communicate with. They all work from home, and there are 3 people on the board and they have 20 employees. So that's a lot of people doing what, I don't know, because I have not seen any job descriptions.
So back to, go ahead.
No, we've had public comment.
Oh, back to the, we're just a rubber stamp board then. We have no options on this at all.
I mean, it would be interesting in court, they call it a test case, to see what would happen if we denied it, but
Well, I do know that as having a neighbor who has a grow house, it is not pleasant.
Well, that's the thing is, I mean,
It's not pleasant at all.
you can smell that from,
Yeah.
and I did have a phone call from a contiguous neighbor for this that's complaining about the smell.
I'm just wondering, I guess our hands are tied, but
well, like Brad said, I mean, our hands aren't tied. I guess the state can find out if they're the ones that are controlling the town or we are. I mean, we might as well all actually.
where is this?
See, I don't even think they let us legally tell.
I can show this to you, but
It can't be
I
public.
cannot
Okay.
say it publicly.
It's encircled.
And this is an operation that's already had a
Indoor.
permit for,
Indoor.
and they're now applying to be outdoor, or they have been
And
going
I think
outdoor?
that's why they call it mixed tier.
My only concern would be if they were previously growing outdoors and it was somebody new that moved in that was complaining and we say no, then we're going to open up a can of worms to people moving in to say, like my farm as an example, and say, oh, I don't like the smell of cow manure. He needs to quit spreading his manure. And I'm opposed to that. If they're not already growing it outside, then I agree with Tom and Ken that I don't want to smell that stuff
And
but I don't want to restrict somebody if they're already legally doing it either.
We have the ability to restrict it when they present it to us.
one of the other things I came away from that training with was if you have zoning in a town, you can establish setback requirements, but they're not great. They're like 150 feet, so, you know.
Oh, that'll keep it away from you.
Unless you have gale force winds going the other way.
My understanding too from the presentation to the planning commission was this is basically, it's a notification so the town is aware of who's going in where.
That's
Not
what it
like
boils
you're-
down
You're
to.
truly deciding on who's coming to do this. That ship is sailed. The state is taking care of it for right or wrong.
So, is there a motion?
Well, that being said, I make the motion, we approve it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Clerk, would you poll the board, please?
Yes, hold on 1 second. Okay, Keaton,
Yes.
Abbott,
Yes.
Stoller,
No.
Haines,
Yes.
Bender.
No. Motion carries. Okay, so, ladies, if you don't mind, I'm gonna switch places and allow Ethan to make his presentation because he's got a bit of traveling to do and we took a long time in executive session.
Somewhere I should stand specifically, or is there somewhere I should stand specifically, or?
Where you are,
Well, so that he can get you on camera. Not just see your back, he wants to see your smiling face.
Do I look like your servant boy?
Thank you.
Yeah, the treasurer wants you to have a seat. You're welcome. I'm not used to that.
Yeah, it's-
Somebody didn't know how to staple.
So thank you very much for your time. I understand you have a long meeting, so I'll keep it brief. I'm here basically to let you all know that we have entered phase 2 of the regional plan update for the Rootland region. This is a document that effectively 8 years has to update for a state statute. And it's really kind of a blueprint for how the region wants to develop, what areas we want to focus on, and for us as an organization, how we should spend our capacity as well. So phase 1, we hadn't heard anything, we had no policies. We reached out to members of the community to try to find out what priorities were. So we spoke to all 27 towns, all 27 boards, just like I'm doing here. We had 21 pop-ups where we popped up anywhere from a transfer station to a rummage sale to a pork roast in Wallingford. We held several open houses and we ran an extensive survey, earned about 1,200 responses. So we took all of that and then started to develop the initial draft plan and policies. So now we're in phase 2 where we're soliciting input now that we actually have something for people to react to. So now we have draft policies, but in a very sort of rough state. So right now we're really asking for feedback if there's anything to change, if we're off base, heading in the right direction. Now is the easiest time to change. as we move further along in the process, the harder it is going to be to change those policies and documents.
Now the
So,
draft policies are on your website?
yes, they're also contained in the packet.
Oh, they are on here, okay.
I'll get to that in just a sec. Yeah, so you'll find all the policies here. On the left side is the phase 1. Those are really the core points we heard from all of the outreach we did, and how that's gone to inform the policies. And you'll find that for every one of our chapters. And that information is all available on our website. I have some flyers here for the town to get that information as well. So I'll also note we're hosting an open house on October 30th at 6 p.m. Those will be in person at our offices at 16 Evelyn Street in Rutland City. There's also a virtual option which you can find on the website. So that'll be effectively a longer session where we'll go through each chapter one by one, read off the policies and have a discussion and sort of react to it. So that's about all I have for now. But we hope to get as many eyes on this as possible, since like I said, now is really the best time to, if there's a time to change course drastically, now is the time to do it, so.
Now, when would we, like, go over do you guys have a meeting when every policy is discussed per policy?
Yeah, so our October 30th meeting is when we'll be discussing that. We'll go basically policy by policy and answer any questions. I'm transportation, so you can also feel free to reach out to me directly with any questions or concerns you have. You don't have to go all over them now in detail, but we just wanted to make sure they got in front of you all in a hard paper copy.
So have you given this to our local planning commission yet?
I can check. I'm not leading the outreach efforts.
I don't believe that.
But I can definitely.
And they've already had their October meeting, so.
For them to have any comments for these October meetings is gonna be a tough.
I know Shelley sent the survey that has it in it to all the members.
Yeah, and that survey has all of the policies listed, and then opportunities to respond via internet survey if that's an easier way to give feedback. But we're not actually going to really go into starting to draft until mid-December, so there's still quite a bit of time to review before we're even going to start to think about opening it back up and redrafting for the second draft. And then there will be a final draft, and then that final draft will be the version that goes to a public hearing, I believe, targeting late 2025. So it's a long process, but I want to make sure everyone's aware about the process, so at the proper time, concerns can be raised.
So the October 30th meeting, though, every policy will be discussed and input from the people that are attending, you'll be taking?
Yeah, that's correct.
And it looks like on that, learn more and share your thoughts, that if we have thoughts that we'd like to share, we can email them to you.
Yes, that's correct. So email, survey, open public forum, any of those are great venues for providing feedback.
Any questions for Ethan?
Not on this. Are you the one in charge of doing the road studies?
Yes.
Yes. And you're the one that put out the counter on Baker Brook?
Yep, that's correct.
And when are we getting information on that?
Has that never been sent? I'm sorry. My apologies.
Well, I'm glad you came because, yeah, no, as long as.
Yeah, I apologize on that.
That's all right. And you may have said, we haven't seen it, and we, every meeting have said, have you seen it? No. So.
Well, I apologize for that.
No. But, no, that'd be handy to see at some point, though. We'd love to see it.
I'll make sure to send it, and if you have any questions, I'm also happy to come back and discuss it.
Great. No, thank you.
Of course.
Good. Anything else? Okay, thank you, Ethan. Next, we have a report from our local representatives to the Rutland Regional Planning Commission.
So, two things I figured I'd highlight. One is kind of exciting. They have gotten grants to do what they're calling economic and workforce, oh my God. Anywho, I'll find the name in a minute. It's a really cool program where they are hooking up with seniors in high school who aren't necessarily college bound to connect them with career opportunities.
Right, more about,
You know,
yeah.
you know what I'm saying.
Like a work study program.
Yeah, thank you.
It's workforce opportunities.
Or an
Here we go.
apprenticeship program. or
Workforce
something.
opportunities for rural communities. And it covers all the towns that are within the RRPC. And we did raise the question about our kids who go to BBA. Manchester's not included, but our kids are included. Our kids that are over to Long Trail would be included. I hooked them up with Billy Canfield and Jason Pergament, who run the Success Program down BBA way. And that's another program that makes sure the kids stay on track. And they're not necessarily all college-bound kids, but it's really neat. And they will start this year. They'll start plucking some seniors to hook them up with opportunities.
And does this grant opportunity pay the seniors to work for people, or?
They are paying jobs, and I think it's to cover training and all the things they need to get going.
So if the town was interested in getting a high school student to come work, that would cover any training that we wanted to send them to, or that would cover their wages?
I can give you the email for Greg. He's still collecting, gathering all sorts of info, and I'm sure they'd be interested in that, yes. I just thought it was exciting because a lot of times what we hear is college, 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 and as we all know, workers make the world go round.
We should hear more about it at our next meeting, because Greg had just received the grant before our previous meeting, so he was very excited to share it. And it was, what the grant was funding was setting up the groundwork for students to have training and internships with jobs that they wouldn't be able to access in high school. And then it would put them through a program where at the end of it, they basically have a guaranteed interview. But hopefully at our next meeting, he'll have more information on like what that's gonna look like.
Thank you.
How do they reach out to the kids that are interested, or how do they?
So they're reaching out through like the guidance counselors and such, but they also haven't pinned down all the details for every avenue. But the guidance counselors are the first connection.
And Jason Pergament's good about that, because I know he's helped a couple kids, my son included, either get an apprenticeship or a internship at the state. And Caleb actually stayed at the state, and Hunter Bovey did the same thing when he was at BBA. And that was before all this grant stuff. So I know that he tries to work with students down to BBA to find them work-study programs.
Like an awesome program.
And then the other thing, which doesn't affect us terribly, so on our budget, it's a line item that we vote on, the $1,000 to the planning commission every year. So that is what they're charging every town in the region. But what we talked about was most other planning commissions in the state, it's more based on population or size. So for example, they looked at it with population, Mount Tabor. Mount Tabor's paying $1,000, same as us. but they have 210 people. So it's grossly, skewed. Or Rutland, for that matter, has almost 16,000 people, but they only pay $1,000 a year. So they want to bump it up to basically, to start at, $1 per person. And it's going to have to go up because the other areas, the highest one is $274 per person. Because they've talked about this for years and years, and they've not moved on changing or bringing it up. So for Danby, we'd be looking at like $1,300, which what they do, we're already paying $1,000. It's the other towns that it's going to be a bit of a shock too, like Rutland with 16,000. But when they're doing the work, when they work with the planning commission, etc., everyone's getting their fair share, except maybe some of these larger towns are getting a lot more because they're larger and require more effort. So just want to make you aware it's going to go up, but not by much. Not for us, but it makes sense.
And it's proposed for fiscal year, I believe, 26.
Yes.
So it would give time for towns to put it into their budgets.
Again, it doesn't affect us really. It's $300 for now.
And some of the towns, basically, it seems like the ones with lower populations have land that's owned by the federal government. So there's not a lot of local planning that can affect it.
No, and it's really unfair. Like, especially if you look at Mount Tabor, they pay the same as we do, but they don't require the same services. But even worse is we pay the same as Rutland, and they need a lot more than we do.
Right.
So it makes sense. So just a heads up.
Okay. Is that it? Okay, thank you for that. And then we'll move on to the treasurer's report.
Nothing exciting. Some tax money started to come in. I'm still plodding along, making progress.
You feeling comfortable with it now?
I am in some areas, and in other areas, I'm still learning some stuff. But I think it'll be fine. I think it'll be okay. Skylar has been super helpful, and I should say for anyone listening, if you're not on Facebook, didn't see it there, it's not on the website yet, although I've asked. We are also here Friday nights 5 to 7 and Saturdays 9 to 12, in case anyone wants to come pay their taxes and visit. But nothing else overly.
Excuse me.
Do you feel that you need any other updated training that's...
There's a couple things that I wanted to kind of touch on, but I didn't know if I figured with this giant agenda I'd just bring that up later, because it's not necessarily anything that has to happen in a meeting. I can send it out in the email too, but there are a couple areas that I have questions on that so
If it's not going to be more than 10 minutes, let's get it out on the table. Because we're almost done.
No, it's not. What I mean is, it's not like it's just it's a what's the word? Procedural, yeah. So nothing that has to be at the meeting. Just something that I want to check in with you guys. That's what, yeah. So I'll just send an email. But nothing major. Everything's fine. Everything's going smooth, I think, for the most part.
Are there any questions on the report? Okay, thank you, Michelle.
Do you have anything else you need from me, or can I run?
I'm good.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah.
So the next item on the agenda is transfer station relocation discussion. We've hashed this over for quite a long time, and we know that we have a problem because we have safety issues going on out there, especially on Saturdays, especially if it's a Saturday when there's a snowstorm and we've got the town trucks trying to load up with sand and whatnot. It's just not an ideal location for a transfer station. And we have parking issues here. So the town of Mount Tabor contacted us and put forth the idea that maybe we should explore moving our transfer station down there. So Tom and I met with them on Tuesday evening, and we agreed that we would open discussion. There were no parameters set. The idea came up that there's no electricity down there. So would we go with compactors, or would we go with open containers like we used to have in the past? That's one of the things that needs to be explored. And we would very much like to hear from the constituents your thoughts on moving the transfer station, pluses, minuses. That we can have a good discussion with them. We spent a lot of time last year going through the process of figuring out how to lose less money at the transfer station, and we've come up with the new stickers, which as soon as we run out of the current stickers, which will be someplace around the beginning of the year, town meeting somewhere in there. So we now have the 3 different kinds of stickers. We have the kitchen garbage bag, like that blue container there. We have the 30-gallon bag, and we have the contractor bag. That's as far as we went with it. Did you have anything to add, Tom?
No, I think you covered pretty much all of it. I mean, and the thing is as Brad said, they were preliminary. And I think everybody would like to try to use the synergies that the towns could bring together. But I think we've got a ways to go for the getting it put together.
And one of the things is the site is fairly spacious. So they do have an area right now where they take metal and appliances. And what I like about that is it wouldn't just be our annual dump day holiday in June or whatever. So if you have an old couch or an appliance or whatever, you don't have to try and take up space in your garage with it until next June. You can take it down and put it there and pay the fee that's required, and you're done with it. So I think that would be a step in the right direction. Any discussion from the board on it?
Currently, right now, they have an open dumpster that's fenced in, is that correct?
And it has a roof over it.
An electric fence around to keep animals out.
Is there something like a next step that's already planned, like to meet again, or what's the next?
Yeah, we're waiting to hear from them. They want to make sure that it's kind of based on population rather than just this is what it costs to run the transfer station. So 50%'s on Mount Tabor, 50%'s on Danby, because obviously we'll be generating more garbage.
We tried to get them to take half of our losses.
And they're experiencing losses also. So, the philosophy behind it is we have clean roadsides, but the taxpayer foots the bill for it in addition to buying their dump stickers. And a lot of that is in the area of salary of dump attendants, which are, in my opinion, paid very low for a difficult job.
I'd like to add, I have no interest at all in moving those compactors. I feel they're a waste of money.
Oh, you're saying if we move, we
When
leave?
we move, that's it. Those compactors can go back to Casellas and never use them again. Because we're paying tipping fees every week for half-full dumpsters.
Right. And that's what
I've stuck
annoys
my
me.
head inside there to see, and they're half full. So we're paying a lot of tipping fees that I don't think we should.
Right.
I'd rather go with an open top that everybody can look in there and say, yeah, we need to call somebody, get this empty.
Well, and back in the days before we had the compactors, we had a backhoe out there that smashed it down too. So, you know, we sent really full containers to the dump.
And Steve could view things better to know if he wants something.
That's right. It's easier for me to scavenge through it if it's got an open top. You'd be surprised at what the town is living on out of that dumpster.
Okay, anything else on the transfer station that we should be aware of? We'll move on to the road commissioner's report.
All right, our sand pile is, did we hit our target goal of full yet?
No.
No,
We're
but we're
at
close.
We're at 2,000 tons right as of today. And I'm in hopes to be at 3,000 ton when we pull the plug.
Yeah. We're gonna try going back to one sand pile this year so that we, hopefully have half the number of chunks, and then we can just get refilled from Pike as the season goes on, as opposed to put the, so we'll, yeah, so we'll see how that, if we feel like it's better this year or if we change again next year. But that's the plan, is we're gonna stuff 3,000 ton here, and we'll see if we need to refresh throughout the season or not. The grading, I don't know, where are we? 30% on fall grading?
Let's call it 25.
Yeah.
Because I had to weld on the grader yesterday.
Yeah, and that's basically our, Steve's got one of the trucks torn apart for sand bed.
Yep.
All the trucks are in really good shape right now for, as far as ready to go, except for the sand and just the pan for the chain pan. We're putting a new pan in that. Is there anything?
And I've ordered new trucks, or new tires for
New
truck
trucks.
two. New trucks. New tires for truck 2 because they are in desperate need of being replaced. But we're gonna finish burning them off, hauling sand in before we put new ones on.
Yeah, I think. Is there anything else you want to add to that, or you?
The only thing I want to add is I have, and I brought the wrong truck with me tonight, so I don't have the quote with me, but I have a quote to have the chimney fixed in the town garage.
Oh,
And I believe it was $2,000, but like I said, I do not have the quote in front of me.
now,
And what
And
would
that item-
that would be, to add new blocks on top of the chimney to get it above the snow load, and then put a new liner in, a new multi-fuel liner in, because the liner that was installed before was an oil furnace liner, and we have a multi-fuel furnace, so we can't burn wood in it because there's no clean out in it.
so this will have a clean out.
This will have a clean out, and he didn't include it in his quote, but he told me I'd need a special brush for the liner that I'd like to get through him for it. That way, apparently the liners that he's using, it's a stainless liner, and if you use a metal brush on it, it scratches it. So I think it makes it more apt to have creosote stick to it.
Now, did he have a time frame?
He was in hopes to do it sooner than later, but
I mean, that's one of those items we don't have to vote on as a board. but
I
mean,
don't believe we
definitely
have to
should get
vote on
moving.
it as a board.
Should be kind of a maintenance type thing.
Right,
Yeah.
but, yeah. And that's Damon.
That's Damon
Yeah.
Ferentz. I believe that's how you say his name.
All right, that's my report.
Okay, thank you. And then we have received from the Vermont 250th Anniversary Committee, they'd like us to pass a resolution that says, whereas Vermont Governor Phil Scott signed an executive order to create the 250th Anniversary Commission on December 15th, 2020 to plan, encourage, develop, coordinate, and promote observances and activities to be held in Vermont in commemoration of the historic events associated with the 250th anniversary of the 1776 signing of the Declaration of Independence, the Revolutionary War, and the founding of Vermont in 1777, and the creation of the political foundations of the United States of America, that the Commission hopes to engage all 252 towns in the state. And if we adopt this, we hope to inspire Vermonters to learn from the history, legacy, and context of the past to build a stronger community. Resolved that the town officially establishes a liaison or local committee made up of a diverse group of citizens or individuals to work with the commission, and the participants are voluntary roles. There will be no compensation for participation, and there's an option that the town may provide funding for planning or implementation of 250th related commemorations in their community or the region as available. So if that's something we want to
Are we
do,
gonna have another parade? We had a 200th parade.
we did.
You remember that?
That was right before Irene.
Yes.
No,
Oh,
no.
that was town.
No,
Yeah.
this
that was the
is
town's-
48 years ago. I'm
Yeah.
talking.
Yeah, that's different.
Anniversary.
I don't remember that
Yeah.
one, Tom.
I was in it. If you can
I
find it.
was too.
Yeah.
I remember that. I remember building the float. We built it in the May barn.
I rode my mini bike. I painted it, just put the stars and stripes on it.
I actually think I wore a coon hat, if I remember right.
Hopefully you still have it.
Probably not.
And we want to get out pictures from that for
So, having put at least 3 parades together that I know of, I feel I've done my share. And if somebody would like to take the ball and run with it, that would be a beautiful thing. But I guess first we have to adopt the resolution, if that's what you want to do.
It sounded good to me. I mean, was there anything you didn't?
I don't see anything that they're asking us other than to,
We're not committing to anything.
No,
It's just the resolution. Yeah.
And if we do something, it's at our own expense.
All right.
So, motion to adopt the Vermont 250th anniversary resolution.
I'll make it.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that has passed.
Do
Is
we all
there?
need to sign that thing?
Yeah, we do. Is there any old business?
Yeah, I guess so. We had discussed very little last meeting about salt.
Did we get a quote yet?
Brad was supposed to have it in his file from Barrett. Appalachia was $93 a ton. I haven't heard back from
Barrett.
American. Barrett was less. And if it's not in Brad's folder, then it's probably in my folder in the office, but I don't have a key for it in the clerk's office. Because I thought we were right around $90 a ton. And American was going to email, but they haven't.
What were the other two? Tommy, do you know the name of the other two companies?
What's that?
So he's got American.
Oh, yeah, Barrett isn't really Barrett though. They're the truckers. It's, Cargill, right? I think is Barrett, and, then Appalachia. So it'd be Appalachia, Cargill, and American. Because Barrett is really Cargill. Right?
Yes, Barrett is Cargill.
Yeah, for the minutes, she's looking for the right names. Like Appalachia, you can't call it Pete.
I didn't say Pete, I said Appalachia. And I was wrong, it was in my folder, not Brad's folder. So the price from Cargill delivered was $87.25 a ton. They're cheaper than they were last year, and Appalachia's was $93 a ton, and they're both about $2 a ton cheaper than they were last year. And I would like to continue to buy from both of them this year, the bulk of it being from Cargill, and keep some from Appalachia, so we have two vendors at all times.
Yeah, and we should probably make a motion on that since it's $60,000 worth of.
Well, you heard the criticism that
Okay, then
we
we'll-
just received. Can it wait till next month's agenda? How much salt do we have on hand?
We're gonna need salt.
I've already ordered 2 triaxles of salt because I need salt to put up sand pile, or we're gonna have a frozen block of crap.
Got it.
So I would say, because we've already started this discussion and this is a item that we have no choice, we have to have on hand,
I'm good with the.
that I would make the motion that we buy the bulk of it from Cargill, and we continue to purchase some from Appalachia throughout the year.
I'll second it.
Motion's made and seconded. Discussion? No discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Any other old business? New business.
All right, I got one for that too, so. I just want to know what your guys' feelings is on actually talking with Jason Pergament to see about having a student work with us through the winter in a work study program.
I mean, we can discuss it with them. There's no reason not. I think there's gonna be a lot of limitations there.
I agree. But I think it might be an opportunity for us to find a younger employee to train up the way we want them trained.
I guess what we need to find out is what the criteria is, what they can do, what they can't do, how much of a burden will it be on the town, or can it, I'm all in favor of a training, program, but I'm thinking that the winter isn't the greatest time to do that because we've got a lot of activities that are more or less but I personally think it's a good idea to talk to them and find out what there is going on out there for those programs, and I guess if you want to get more details, I would love to hear it in front of the board, and then we could all,
Well, I would like to reach out to him, but I didn't want to find out that everybody else is totally opposed to it.
well, I mean, there's nothing saying everybody's totally in favor of it until we hear the
Right.
thing. I mean, I would
The
think
idea
that,
sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah.
You know, of having someone, if you get someone here that starts to learn and train, and they like it, and they stay, that's a benefit to the town.
right.
And I agree, I mean, I'm not sure what you were thinking of trying to, have them do in the winter time, but if it was something,
Depending on the winter, we cut a lot of trees last year.
Right.
If we don't have a lot of snow, then we concentrate on cutting trees back where we can.
Well, I think, I'd like to see, I'm sure the board would like to see the, what the criteria and rules and how it's done, and definitely it would be something that, I mean, if we can find and help younger students who are looking for that direction, I think it's a good thing to do. But I'd like to know, a little more details.
I will reach out to Jason Pergament and find out what I can.
Perfect.
And while we're on that subject, what are we doing about backup help?
We need to probably next meeting put it on the agenda for hiring a couple of them. This is probably our thought. I mean, I've talked to 3 of the truckers that have their own trucks, and they're all more than interested to fill out an application and work some winters. I think the biggest thing I was getting is a lot of them are looking for, and it would work fine because I don't think is maybe 1 to 2 weeks a month, so that we would actually have maybe 2 rotate guys, and as long as they're all qualified guys and they're on and they're committed for the shifts, I think it's definitely I mean, I don't think we should, obviously that isn't stopping our hunt for our full-time
Right.
3rd member, but it's definitely gonna fill in for our 3rd guy for this time of year.
Okay, I'll put that on the agenda for November. And also, we're entering budget season. So last November, we started with meeting at 6 o'clock for a budget workshop before the regular select board meeting. How does that sound to people?
It's fine with me.
Yeah.
Kenny and Greg?
Yep.
Welcome.
And that'll be the 14th.
I guess so, if you say
That's
so.
second Thursday.
There you go. November 14th, it's going to be 6 p.m. budget workshop. Any other new business? Well, Greg, as the new member of the board, would you care to make a motion to adjourn?
yes.
Motion is made. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.